Have you ever felt a sudden chill in a warm room? Or caught a fleeting shape in the corner of your eye, only to find nothing there when you turn? For most of us, these are just tricks of the light, our minds playing games. But for some, these are the first signs that they are not alone. Tonight, we're not talking about campfire tales or Hollywood blockbusters. We're delving into the shadows of history, exploring some of the most bone-chilling, well-documented hauntings ever recorded. These are the stories that have baffled investigators and terrified witnesses for generations. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to question what you think you know about the world beyond our own. Our first story takes us to a quiet London suburb in the late 1970s, the Hodgson family. A single mother named Peggy and her 4 children had just moved into a modest council house in Enfield. At first it was home, but soon strange things began to happen. It started small. Furniture would slide across the floor on its own. Lego bricks and marbles would fly through the air, seemingly thrown by an unseen hand. The family would hear knocking sounds coming from inside the walls, a rhythmic, intelligent rapping that seemed to follow them from room to room. Initially, Peggy thought it was a prank, perhaps her children playing tricks. But the activity escalated. The children, particularly 11-year-old Janet, became the focus of the phenomena. She would be levitated from her bed, thrown across the room by an invisible force. The family was terrified. They called the police, but the officers who responded were just as bewildered. One constable even signed a sworn affidavit, stating he witnessed a chair move across the floor by itself. The story attracted the attention of the Society for Psychical Research and to investigators. Maurice Grass and Guy Lyon Playfair arrived to document the case. What they recorded is some of the most compelling and disturbing evidence of paranormal activity ever captured. They documented over 1,500 different incidents. Most famously, a gruff, deep voice began to speak through Janet. The voice identified itself as Bill Wilkins, a man who claimed he had died in the house years earlier. Recordings of these conversations are still available today, and they are truly unsettling. The entity would speak in vulgar language, recount details of its life and death, and interact with the investigators. Skeptics have tried to dismiss the case as an elaborate hoax by a clever child. But how could an 11-year-old girl produce such a deep, gravelly voice for hours on end without damaging her vocal cords? How could she have known details about the previous tenant's death? The Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most debated and terrifying hauntings in modern history. Stark reminder that sometimes the walls really do have ears and voices. From the bustling suburbs of London, we travel across the Atlantic to a desolate, windswept farm in rural Tennessee. This is the home of America's most famous haunting, the legend of the Bell Witch. In the early 1800s, John Bell and his family lived a peaceful life on their farm. That peace was shattered in 1817. John was inspecting his cornfield when he encountered a strange animal with the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit. He shot at it, but the creature vanished. This bizarre encounter was just the beginning. Soon, the Bell family home was plagued by unexplainable sounds. They heard knocking, scratching on the walls, and the sound of chains being dragged across the wooden floors. The spirit, as it came to be known, was relentless. It would pull blankets off the sleeping family members, slap and pinch them, and whisper their deepest secrets in the dead of night. The youngest daughter, Betsy, bore the brunt of the entity's torment. She was physically assaulted, her hair pulled, and her face slapped by an invisible hand, leaving red welts and handprints on her skin. Unlike the Enfield case, this entity was a talker from the start. It had a voice, sometimes described as a faint whisper, other times a booming shout. It claimed to be Kate, a witch who had been cheated by John Bell in a land deal. Kate's stated goal was simple and terrifying. She wanted John Bell dead. The entity's fame spread far and wide. People traveled for miles to witness the phenomena, including future U.S. President Andrew Jackson. According to legend, Jackson and his men arrived, skeptical and ready to debunk the tale. But after a single night of torment from the spirit, they reportedly fled the farm, with Jackson himself declaring he would rather face an entire army than spend another night with the Bell Witch. For years, the family endured Kate's abuse. John Bell's health began to decline rapidly. He suffered from facial seizures and had difficulty swallowing. In December 1820, he was found unresponsive in his bed. Beside him was a small vial of a mysterious black liquid. The entity proudly proclaimed that it had given Belle the poison. To prove its toxicity, they gave a drop to the family cat, which died almost instantly. John Bell's death is the only case in American history where a death has been officially attributed to the actions of a spirit. The Bell Witch legend is a chilling tale of supernatural revenge, a story so ingrained in American folklore that it continues to terrify people to this day. Now, let's journey to one of the most notoriously haunted locations in the United States. A place where the spirits of the past are said to linger with a terrifying intensity. The Villisca Axe Murder House in Iowa. The story begins on a warm summer night in June 1912. The Moore family, Josiah, Sarah, and their 4 young children had just returned from an evening at their local church. 2 young friends of the children, Lena and Ina Stillinger, were staying over for the night. The 8 of them went to sleep, unaware that they would never see the sunrise. The next morning, a concerned neighbor noticed the house was unusually quiet. Upon entering, they discovered a scene of unimaginable horror. All 8 people, including the 6 children, had been brutally murdered in their beds, bludgeoned with an axe. The killer had moved through the house with silent, methodical precision. After the horrific act, the murderer did something truly strange. They covered every mirror and pane of glass in the house with cloths and linens. They also left a plate of uneaten food on the kitchen table and locked the doors from the inside before leaving. The crime sent shockwaves through the small town and the entire country. Despite a massive investigation and several suspects, including a traveling minister and a state senator, the killer was never identified. The case remains one of America's most infamous unsolved mysteries. And this is where the haunting begins. The house sat empty for years, a dark monument to the tragedy. When people finally began to live there again, the reports started. Visitors and residents spoke of hearing the faint whispers and cries of children in the dead of night. They saw objects move on their own, doors open and slam shut, and felt sudden, inexplicable cold spots. Many have reported seeing the spectral figure of a man with an axe standing at the foot of their bed. Psychics and paranormal investigators who have visited the house often speak of a heavy, oppressive energy, a profound sadness mixed with a palpable sense of anger and fear. Some have even captured audio recordings of children's voices asking, "Who are you? And what do you want?" One investigator, while staying overnight, was stabbed in the chest by an unseen force, an incident he documented on camera. The Villisca Axe Murder House is more than just a historical crime scene. For many, it is a place where a violent, tragic event has left a permanent scar on the fabric of reality, a place where the spirits of the murdered are trapped forever, reliving their final terrifying moments. These are just 3 stories pulled from a vast ocean of unexplained phenomena. From the poltergeist in a London council house, to the vengeful witch of a Tennessee farm, to the echoes of a brutal massacre in an Iowa home. These accounts challenge our understanding of life and death. They suggest that perhaps when we whisper into the darkness, something might just whisper back. Whether you believe them to be genuine hauntings, elaborate hoaxes, or misinterpretations of natural events, one thing is certain: these stories have the power to chill us to the bone. They remind us that there are still mysteries in this world that science cannot explain. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the shadows. If you enjoyed these stories and want to explore more of the unexplained, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay safe and don't be afraid of the dark. Too afraid anyway.